the Sachang'wan Road. This roughly 21-kilometer stretch is no stranger to accidents. In fact, it is considered to be one of the worst black spots in Kenya. It's so bad that people believe that there is something otherworldly behind those accidents. But one accident shook the whole country, and it is remembered as one of the worst disasters in recent years. Today, we are going to look at what happened and why the Sachang'wan oil tanker disaster still haunts Kenya to this day. On the evening of January 31st, 2009, a calm Saturday along the Nakuru-Eldoret highway turned into one of Kenya's deadliest disasters. By nightfall, Sachang'wan, a small trading center near Jolly Farm, was engulfed in flames that would claim over 130 lives and affect hundreds more forever. At around 5:30 p.m., a tanker carrying tens of thousands of liters of petrol overturned along a busy stretch of road. It began leaking immediately. The passengers on board, the driver and the loader, rushed to a nearby GSU camp to report the accident. But before help could arrive, the news had already spread like wildfire. Word traveled fast. Motorcyclists, farmers, women, others with children strapped to their backs, all rushed to the scene with jerrycans and anything to scoop up the spilled fuel. For many, this was an opportunity. Some people began drilling holes into the tanker to get the fuel faster. Others set up makeshift funnels and siphons. It is alleged that some even began charging a fee to anyone who wanted to scoop the petrol. It was utter chaos, desperation mixed with excitement. To those who had come, this was free money, a chance to escape poverty, even for a day. But no one realized they were standing inside a ticking time bomb. By around 7 p.m., police officers had arrived to disperse the swelling crowd. But tension was rising. Some obeyed, others resisted, arguing with officers. Some witnesses claimed the officers had been soliciting bribes to let people scoop petrol. Police denied this, calling it far-fetched. And then, in a moment still debated to this day, a spark turned the night into hell. Some say it was a lit cigarette. Rescuers claim it might have been static electricity. But one version, repeated by witnesses and police alike, stands out. A man, angry after being denied access to the tanker, sat on the ground, lit a cigarette, and the world around him erupted. Whatever the case, what happened next was catastrophic. In an instant, a massive explosion tore through the air. A fireball engulfed everything within its immediate vicinity. The blast was heard for miles. Those near the tanker were burned alive. Vehicles caught fire. The road turned into a wall of flames. One survivor, Simon Mwangi, recalled, "I saw a wave of fire. My face and leg were burning. I tried to remove my trousers, but they were stuck to my skin." Another, Charles Kamau, said, "Everybody was screaming, running with fire on their bodies. They were just running into the bush. It was utter chaos." Others watched helplessly as loved ones disappeared into the inferno. A mother later said, "My 2 sons ran to collect petrol. I tried to stop them. They didn't listen. Now I cannot trace them." The officers who tried to keep order also paid a terrible price. 5 of them were burnt to death. 11 more were badly injured. A huge traffic jam built up as vehicles were blocked on both sides of the highway. Motorbikes and cars nearby caught fire. Spectators stood frozen, unable to comprehend the horror. Molo, a town of nearly 90,000 people, had no fire brigade. The nearest one was in Nakuru, a whole municipality away. It took firefighters an hour to arrive. By the time they got to the scene, the flames were too intense. They could only watch from a distance as everything burned. It was a disaster no one was prepared for. The Kenya Red Cross was the first to mobilize, volunteers rushing in to treat the injured and recover bodies. But the numbers kept rising. 50, then 100, then more. Ambulances from Nairobi, Aga Khan and Kenyatta hospitals were sent. Helicopters airlifted the severely burnt to Nairobi. Even the Kenya Army and Air Force were brought in to deliver supplies and medical aid. But hospitals were still overwhelmed from another tragedy just days earlier, the Nakuru downtown fire.
According to police, 6 people who trapped after the fire engulfed the busy supermarket were rescued as firefighters from the Nairobi City Council, the military and private fire companies battled the fierce inferno that destroyed property worth millions of shillings.
Resources were limited, but more patients kept coming in with third-degree burns. By the next day, the death toll had risen to 131. Among them were 16 boys who had been playing football nearby. 36 children in total lost their lives. The scene left behind was apocalyptic. Charred clothing, burnt-out cars, twisted metal. Even Red Cross workers had to be given counseling after what they saw. Prime Minister Raila Odinga, visiting victims, said, "Poverty is pushing our people into doing desperate things just to survive one more day." The government declared a week of national mourning. President Mwai Kibaki cut short his trip to the African Union Summit to deal with the issues at home. The nation mourned together yet divided. Editorials called it a study in logistical deficiency. Kenya disaster preparedness, or lack of it, was on full display. When the smoke cleared, police arrested the driver and loader to determine what went wrong. But for most families, the answers didn't matter anymore. The tragedy had already stolen what was irreplaceable. A mass burial was held nearby. Grieving families, some unable to identify the remains of their loved ones, watched as their wrapped bodies were lowered into the earth. It was a dark moment in Sachang'wan, a moment of pain, sorrow, and despair. At the edge of the crowd, one could still smell the burnt fuel in the air. The ash on the ground was mixed with melted plastic and human remains. Sachang'wan would never be the same again. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. But in the ashes of tragedy lies a brutal truth. Kenya's disasters rarely begin with fire. They begin with poverty, neglect, and desperation. And until those are extinguished, Sachang'wan's flames will never truly die out. If you found this story fascinating, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe so that you don't miss out when we release future videos.